kind of a generic bad king, but because Robin Hood becomes complicated, this is where we're just going to shift gears a little bit and talk about Robin Hood and his legacy slightly. Robin Hood is the if you play D&D, the iconic chaotic good character in popular culture. One of the reasons for his popularity is you'd think that no ruling elite would want a story about a robber going around robbing from the rich, giving to the poor, except Robin Hood has that nice out where he is supporting the good king against the bad usurper. So he does have his, as he's always shown, at least in modern tales, to be loyal to King Richard or some other sort of authority figure. So he is not entirely thrown off of the bus as being someone that the ruling elites of the world would actually want to do. Like every 10 years or so, you see a new Robin Hood movie. And of the first silent film movies, there were 5 Robin Hood movies shot between 1905 and 1914. So if you're looking for historical films about medievalism and how people in the early 1900s saw the story, excellent resource to go to for silent movies, because there are a lot of Robin Hood films. Very, very popular bit of subject matter. Okay, so back to King John and his failings as a king. One of the most famous things. So I'll ask you guys, what's the most thing you associate with King John?
Taxes, taxes, more taxes.
Taxes. Okay. Well, that is actually true. He did put in a lot of taxes. Now, why did he put in a lot of taxes? Was it because he was greedy? Was it because he wanted to live a life of luxury?
I think it was to provide public services and roads.
Oh, you sweet summer child. No. Remember King John's big failing as a medieval king? He lost a lot of land. He actually lost Normandy. Now, the William the Conqueror, the ultimate English king of King John's ancestor, was from Normandy, and for many years the title of Duke of Normandy was much more prestigious than King of England. Because King England was just this little podunk island that nobody went to from the end of nowhere. Normandy, that's where everybody was. So being the Duke of Normandy was a good thing. King John lost that to King Philip Augustus, and actually most of Normandy, Brittany, Calais, all that was lost in wars under John. And one of the reasons for his massive taxation was because he was trying to retake those lands from Angevin, which is southern France. And he raised a lot of taxes, raised a lot of troops, hired a lot of mercenaries, went north to bravely destroy Philip Augustus, and was royally kicked in the ass, and was sent back with really nothing to show for it. So all the taxes that he collected very well could have been forgiven if he'd won. But he lost, and lost badly. And his barons back in England were definitely displeased and rebelled against King John and decided to have a little bit of a rebellion that he had to try and put down. They actually managed to claim King Louis as King of England. And even though he was never coronated, he was acclaimed as King of England over King John. And in England, in order to be a king, you don't have to be coronated. You just have to be acclaimed by popular consent of the nobles. So this is why, fun fact from the future, why Jane Grey is not considered a Queen of England is because she did never acclaimed. She did get a coronation. It was very hastily. She's like called the 9 Days Queen. So she did receive a coronation that was rushed in there to try and attain her acclamation, but it never happened. So she's officially not on the register of the succession. And Louis, even though he was acclaimed, is also not there because his acclamation was retroactively revoked. Because the whole reason for the rebellion was to overthrow King John. King John, and this Isidore, I'm going to have to unfortunately throw your brothers under the bus. He went to a monastery, and they had some new beer that they were serving, which they fed to the king who was staying at their abbey, and he got dysentery and died. So the whole reason for the rebellion was to overthrow King John. Well, King John kind of overthrew himself. So Louis was no longer needed as a king, so the barons turned on him and turfed him. And he ended up, even though he had set up a government and had ministers and everything, everybody just started ignoring him, and he went back to France and Flanders and lived quietly for the rest of his days. We think. I don't know. I didn't look too much into him. But yes, he is one of the other uncrowned kings of England who, if you want to be strict on his on the successions, he did rule for about 2 years. If not in fact, at least he said he did. Now, the big thing that King John did was he brought in the Magna Carta, which, if anybody is a student of law or anything, is the primo document for human rights. And there are a few interesting points in it. The main reason it was brought in isn't just because of John. He gets the blame for it because it was signed in under him. However, it had been a long line of kings, Richard I, Henry II, who've been very abusive of taxation and powers and appointing various government bodies, and with really no real controls on them. So the barons were sick and tired of this random taxation crap. So they rebelled against King John and forced him to sign the Magna Carta. Now, a little bit of a rewind, because King John had been excommunicated by the Pope over a dispute over who is going to be the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, because we're going to rewind a little bit further, if you remember the father of John, King Henry II, I think I heard of a guy named Thomas Becket. Thomas Becket was murdered in Winchester Cathedral on the orders. That's a little bit of a conspiracy of Henry II, who was Archbishop of Canterbury. I actually went to the spot where he was murdered. Lovely little memorial there now. But so the tenureship of the Archbishop of Canterbury was very contentious, given that within John's lifetime, one of them had been murdered on orders of the king. So the Pope was a little concerned about who his representative in England was. So he selected one guy, King John selected another, the Pope and him disagreed. The Pope said, you know, I excommunicate you and encourage people to rebel against you. And you can't comply taxes and you're going to hell. Which was a big deal. So John eventually lost the argument and appointed the Pope's representative to be the Archbishop of Canterbury. And this paid off later because after he was forced to sign the Magna Carta, the Pope looked at it because it specifically gets rid of the divine right of kings and actually puts limits on the rulers of the land. Innocent, the Pope Innocent, did not like this. Being the ruler of many medieval lands, he did not like any sort of limits on him. So he threw it out. But, you know, what was that the first time a Pope ignored the laws of a country? I don't know, maybe. We're not going to throw you into the bus here too much, Isidore. So that sort of paid off for him. But yeah, the Magna Carta, and a key point of writing in it is the earlier drafts list that it gave rights to barons, only barons. And in the final draft that was eventually signed, it was changed to any man, not just any baron. So therefore extending the rights included in the Magna Carta from illegal search and seizure, not being tortured, being able to travel the roads, all those were then extended to everybody, not just the landed nobility. So as crude as it is, and I did actually have a chance to read it when it was visiting Edmonton a few years ago, it is kind of a cool thing, and it's very, very basic, but it does lay out our modern human rights law framework. And it was signed at Runnymede, which is just outside of London, and again, nice memorial there if you ever happen to go there. Nice little space. It's just in the middle of the field. Not really anything there, which is one of the reasons it was selected. But yeah, so that was King John. So many people look at him badly. They look at his portrayal in the Robin Hood series and movies and cartoons and think, oh, he's obviously the worst. Like, if he'd won a few more battles, maybe we would not be looking at him as so awful. Was he a complete and utter asshole? Yes. I don't think anyone's going to argue that one. But so was his brother. But everyone loves Richard I. When he got married, he was a very romantic guy. And this story should take a note because when Richard I got married to his wife, he decided for their honeymoon they were going to go on a beautiful pillaging of Sicily. And so he took his lovely bride to Sicily, where they burned and sacked and killed people for about 3 months.
Well, you know, everything's more beautiful by candlelight.
Yeah.
Long honeymoon.
Yeah. I mean, so if you're thinking of something to do for your honeymoon, maybe sack Sicily. It's just just throwing out ideas here. Anyway, so that is John. Any questions on King John? No? Everybody knows everything about him? Okay, so we are going to move over now. And people are complaining about audio. Why are people complaining about audio? Hey, Mike, sorry, I am just going to. We believe we have, we should have. If not, I apologize.
I turn the volume up on your phone there.
Because it says the mic is on. You can hear now?
Yeah. It would, but yeah, okay,
Okay, we're going to move over to Richard. You don't like that?
I think that you're going to pick up some speakers.
Okay, Richard III. Okay, just into shot? No?